This is Arkansas 11, KTHV Little Rock.
Arkansas, are your rivers still flowing? Is your cotton growing? White as snow.
Travelin Arkansas, the best of Dovish.
Good evening, I'm Chuck Dovish. Together with photographer Tim Park, what we are about to show you during the next half hour is an Arkansas not too many folks are aware of, not even some native Arkansans. We'll show you a state that has managed in the 20th century not to forget about the true values of life. We'll show you some old friends who help make life's precious moments. We'll show you the people who, along with their parents and grandparents, helped build this nation. Join us, won't you, for Travelin Arkansas. It was back in April when we paid a visit to the annual Arkansas Folk Festival, the time of the year when the nation's folk music capital, Mountain View, shows us what folk is really all about.
From the time the first settlers arrived in the Ozarks, mountain folk have lived in quite a different world compared to their flatland neighbors. If you didn't have clothes, you made them.
There's no two people that we even like, see, and so it's kind of a creative thing.
The Ozark Foothills Handicraft Guild is once again demonstrating centuries-old skills during the Arkansas Folk Festival. The Guild has nearly 500 members reviving traditional crafts.
Well, when my husband and I got married, he gave me a spinning wheel and 2 Angora goats. He decided that I'd like spinning. And I did.
In the Ozark vocabulary, there's no such word as instant. For example, good apple butter takes 6 to 8 hours to make.
Very impressive.
Oh, this is fine.
You've seen it before?
Never have. I'm glad I don't have to do it that way.
In the mountains, work sessions almost always end with a little fun. Here the philosophy is, no matter how old you are, you work hard and you waltz hard. And of course, there's nothing that can beat that good old mountain music.
Probably the granddaddy of the string instruments is the mouth bow. A drawing of one was found on a cave wall in France dating back to about 15,000 BC. And now we're going to try a little bit of liberty. Ready? One of the amazing attributes of Ozark elders is their good health, and on top of that, being able to put in a hard day's work. A perfect example is 82-year-old Bertha Sparks of Jasper.
Well, when I was growing up, we didn't have any money. We didn't need any because we grew all of our food on the farm and we managed. My mother was thrifty and she could sew good, and we managed to have good clothes, good enough to wear to school and church, and we had lots of parties and spelling bees and pie suppers and dances and everything to go to. So we actually had more fun than the kids have today.
50 years ago, Bertha Sparks was given a hoe by her father. He told her she could make a good living with it. Bertha is 82 now. She still uses that same hoe on her 1-acre garden, and she still hikes 15 miles twice a week. We had to ask where all the energy came from.
Organic. I eat it after I get it made. What's good to make garden if you don't eat it? You know what I had for breakfast this morning?
What?
I had fried soybeans, oatmeal, spinach, and lettuce for a salad, and I feel fine.
Bertha taught school when teachers were paid $25 a month. She still smokes her own meat and paints.
I learned how to paint by watching the little kids paint when I taught school. I paint like a child because they're natural-born artists, and that's where I learned to paint. I never took a course in art except public school course, and that didn't help me none with the painting. And how to smoke meat, I learned from my grandma because I started smoking meat before I started the school. We had a big log smokehouse with a dirt floor, and my grandpa and my father killed their hogs at the same time. They'd kill 10 and 12, and always 10, and sometimes 14. and fill the smokehouse full of meat.
What sort of pride does Bertha take in her smoked ham?
I think it's good. I guarantee I've got the best hams in the world. Now that's a pretty big guarantee, but I stand behind it.
Stop in and taste for yourself. North of Jasper on Highway 7.
An Arkansas tradition on many farms every autumn is the making of sorghum molasses. Many a story has been told about the joys of that molasses making. Charles Sterner of Mena would like to tell you his.
It's time to turn sorghum cane into sorghum molasses. Easier said than done. On the Charles Sterner farm near Mena, the sorghum cane is tall, ripe, and ready to be cut. That means it's time for family and friends to gather and get the job done. Not to mention a lot of help from the family mule, Pearl.
We've tried lots of ways, but this is the best method we have found. We can cut it, bundle it, and drop it on the ground, and then pick it up to be loaded on the trailers.
Sterner says his mule is equivalent to 10 men with knives.
Hit it, Pearl.
Looks like he's right. Sterner's father began growing sorghum in 1930. Sterner got his first taste at the age of 8, and for the past 46 years, this has been his living. After the cane is loaded onto the wagon, Sterner takes it by a sorghum mill and with a chainsaw cuts off the grain tops. They're used as feed and provide seed for next year. The cane's now ready to be fed into the sorghum press to squeeze the juice. On top of a wood-burning furnace, the juice is cooked to a temperature of about 240 degrees, or to when it looks just about right.
When you're doing that, are you checking for the consistency?
That's what I'm doing. Now, when you get over here, see how that'll start hairlining down off of there? All right, that's ready to go now.
After a day which begins at 7 a.m. and doesn't end until 10 p.m., the syrup is finally ready to go into a jar as Sterner's old-fashioned Polk County sorghum.
Good stuff. You know, at the beginning of the program, we said we'd show you a few folks who have helped build this nation. Well, there's a certain cowboy who's still building a Wild West in Clark Ridge, Arkansas.
They told me I was a telephone booger. That's what them doctors told me. Said he wasn't one man in 100 lived through what I went through, yeah.
67-year-old Roy Stone has had 4 heart attacks, 7 operations for cancer, a crushed leg, and a bullet in his foot. And yet he still labors over a job he says he was born to do, blacksmithing and the forgotten art of wagon wheel making.
I just got thinking about worrying me to death when I found I had that cancer. And I was thinking, well, shoot, I ain't gonna die. I just quit ever thinking about it, and I got all right.
After living the life of a Texas cowboy, bareback, and bull rider, Roy relives those days fitting together red and white oak into the mainstay that won the West.
Sort of used to work at when I was young. I was 17 years old, and Uncle Tom Davis gave me a old rotted down wagon. And I went and hauled that thing home, and I just rebuilt it, every piece of it, but the hooks. And I traded it for the first horse I ever owned. and then I went over and went to working for that blacksmith, and I've been at it ever since.
Roy says it takes about a day to build a wheel. You have to make sure the iron rim is a tad bit shorter than the circumference of the wheel. The rim is then expanded in a fire, and the tricky part comes when trying to fit it on the wheel. To produce a tight fit, the iron rim is then contracted by placing the wheel in water. As Roy would say, making a stout wheel makes a stout man.
It just gives you something to do, and I just enjoy doing it. You know, everybody thinks, well, if I'd have to be crazy to do something like that, but I don't know. There ain't many guys does that anymore. In fact, I don't know anybody else that does this.
Which is why we visited the man who makes the wagon wheels a couple of miles from the Missouri border in Clark Ridge.
Sometimes to understand Arkansas, the land and its people, one has to take a look back to the chapters of history. We'll do that right after this.
Arkansas, are your rivers still flowing? Is your cotton growing?
A show about Arkansas and its people would not be complete without a little discussion about the Civil War, one battle in particular at a place we should not forget. Americans have probably read more about the Civil War than the rest of history combined. More than 60,000 books and articles have been written about it. The Civil War was our war. It pitted American against American, brother against brother, father against son. Take a tour with us of Pea Ridge National Military Park, where the most decisive battle west of the Mississippi River took place.
Pea Ridge was the battle that gave Missouri to the Union. You won't be needing your textbooks on this 4,000-acre park. No textbook could ever begin to convey the blood, wounds, and tears shed here March 7th and 8th of 1862. It's the presence of the area that begins to take hold of you. The cannons are silent, but it's not difficult to imagine the terror and anguish they once caused, the smoke, confusion, and the shouting, as 10,000 Union troops and 16,000 Confederates clashed for a day and a half. What set this battle apart from the others was that the Confederates advanced from the north, the Boston Mountains. The Union Army was south of Pea Ridge. It was also the Civil War's only major battle using Indian troops. 1,000 Cherokees made a successful charge against a 3-gun Union artillery. The Indians referred to the cannons as shooting wagons. The center of fighting was at this landmark, Elkhorn Tavern. The Confederates steadily pushed back the Union Army and at nightfall held the tavern. And a wagon train that was supposed to arrive with reserve ammunition didn't make it. So the Confederates withdrew eastward from the tavern, ending the Battle of Pea Ridge and the lives of 203 Union soldiers and 197 Confederates. Missouri remained in Union hands. The battle marked the beginning of the end for Confederate hope of regaining control of the Mississippi.
The history of the American Indian, also in many respects, can be a bitter story. The Indian in Arkansas has his heritage here and a story to tell.
It's a great change from when his ancestors hunted on the great and open plain, stocking meat for the winter, to the Indian of today, stocking food for himself and others. But Ron Waltman does this only long enough to make a living. Being of Cherokee ancestry, Ron never wants to let go the ways of his forefathers. So he lives as his forefathers did, in a wigwam.
I have always wanted to, and now that I got a chance to, I can appreciate more the lifestyle of the American Indian who lived on the plains back 100 years ago, and appreciate it more, and really enjoy it too.
Do you feel like you were born hundreds of years after your time?
Yeah, sometimes I have that feeling. It's kind of strange, but I do. I feel like I should have lived 100 years ago, or maybe even more.
Of course, there are a lot of things you have to sacrifice living in a wigwam.
You get out of bed on a cold, cold morning, and there's no heat, with thermostat keeping your house warm, and the wind rattling the ears, the smoke hole flaps on the top of the teepee. It's a lot different. It's harder to get adjusted to and live under, but I did, and I enjoy it. And now I'm not as scared of living in the wintertime.
Actually, Ron's living quarters are plush compared to what he was living in 6 months ago, a teepee. Ron obviously has a deep belief in living the way he does and says he's saddened by the history of the American Indian.
A lot of states don't view themselves as having an Indian heritage, and a lot of folks in Arkansas don't either, because they don't associate the idea of Indians being in Arkansas very much. And part of the reason is because they were run out. Well, not run out. They were kind of forced out, but it was done legally.
Ron says how he feels the way Indians have been treated is how any Indian would feel.
I think it's deplorable, really. To be honest, I think it is deplorable. And the fact that a lot of the things that were done are still being done.
So Ron Waltman continues to hold on to what little is left of his heritage in a state where Indian names surround us, names of lakes and mountains and of the state itself. But Ron wishes if only the people of those names could be remembered just as well.
have a look at a different Arkansas tradition dealing with longhorns and the Razorback Kid when we return.
Are you ever still flowing? Is your cotton growing? Quietly and slowly turn the old folks sitting, whittling on a stick.
Arch rivals of the Arkansas Razorbacks have been the Texas Longhorns. That shootout took place here at Little Rock's War Memorial Stadium in October. We'd like to take you back to our version of the roots of the shootout.
Foul stench was.
It's Longhorn.
No.
Yes, those Texas boys are back. And you remember what happened the last time they was here?
Well, Miss Amy, there's only one thing left to do.
What's that?
I quit.
No!
Yes, I was going home to Missouri.
But why?
Because everybody knows Missouri loves company.
But we'll be defenseless against those Texans.
That's your problem.
No, it isn't. Your contract states that you cannot resign until you appoint someone in your stead to take up the badge, uphold justice, and maintain law and order.
No.
Yes.
But, Miss Amy, there ain't nobody around I can appoint.
Well, that's your problem, Marshal. Feel around, maybe.
But, Miss Amy, them Texicans are going to kill me for sure. Whatever am I going to do?
Excuse me, sir.
Not now, son. I'm busy.
Pardon me for bothering you, but I thought maybe you could help me.
I said not now, boy. Can't you see I'm facing a crisis?
Gee, I'm sorry to bother you, sir, but you see, I'm new in town and I'm looking for a job.
A job, you say? What's your name, son?
Chuck Dovish.
You got any kin? Wife, mother, kids?
No, sir.
You'll do.
I'll do.
You'll do. Raise your right hand and say, I do.
I do.
You'll do.
I'll do.
You sure as heck will. Chuck Dovish, I hereby appoint you town marshal. Congratulations, son. Now, your first job, Marshal Dovish, is to stop that rampaging bunch of Texans. Good luck, son. Bye. But,
Hey, Arkansas! We from Texas.
Well, nobody's perfect.
We've come all the way over here just to slaughter you hoes. We're gonna fry your bacon. We can't be beat.
Then I reckon you boys ain't never faced the Razorback Kid.
You swine! Let's take him, boys.
Marshal, it looks like you've tamed those longhorns and brought peace to hog country.
Much obliged, ma'am.
what happened?
Well, I reckon you could say Arkansas 7, Texas nothing.
Unfortunately, that was not exactly the outcome. You know, most of us get wound up so much in Christmas present that Christmas, sadly enough, just isn't Christmas anymore. So we're going to take you back to the joyous spirit of Christmas past, into the quaint Victorian village of Eureka Springs for a Victorian Christmas. Travel back in time with us for just a few moments to a period when the values of Christmas were different, back to a time before the commercialism of Christmas. Don't let the modern-day world turn you into a Scrooge. Let's go back to an era when we can appreciate this Christmas season and what it stands for.
Christmas in Eureka is very, very special. It's like no place else that I've ever lived. Of course, I've never been to the New England state, so that's the only thing I can compare it to in this area. But it is very special. It's a very quiet, a peaceful time, but there's still a lot of things to do. You know, there's always Christmas caroling and special church programs and the school programs, and it's a community spirit.
Eureka Springs has been called a gem hidden in the Ozark Mountains. That gem shines even brighter during Christmas.
I think people come here because we are old-fashioned in the ways that we celebrate Christmas. We all get out and decorate, and we have old-fashioned Christmas trees, which we have cut in the woods usually because you can.
Here you'll find the true meaning of Christmas, and you won't find downtown Eureka Springs turned into a shopping mall. The people of Eureka wouldn't think of it. Christmas shopping here is a joyous and thrilling occasion, as it should be.
Nearly everyone who comes has a love for Eureka Springs, and that's what makes Christmas special.
We find that most of the people who live in Eureka live here because they wanted to, not because a job or something else brought them here. But they came because they fell in love with the place, the area, the people, the atmosphere.
Ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ our Savior was born on Christmas Day.
Merry Christmas, everyone, and the better New Year.
If you enjoyed visiting with the people we introduced to you during the past half hour, believe me, there are many more folks just as colorful to meet along the Grand Prairie, the Delta, and in the Ozarks, many of whom are you watching right now. So join us for Travelin Arkansas weekdays on 11 Action News, and let's get to know each other a whole lot better.
Are your rivers still flowing? Is your cotton growing? While it's slow. Do the younglings still fiddle with thoughts of growing rich and slowly turn to old folks sitting whittling on a stick? Arkansas.